Weak, heartbroken, devastated. What happened? Oh no, I'm so sorry, Lapio. That sucks. That sucks. How are you hanging in there? Stephanie, how's it going? Lapio, that really sucks. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm so, yeah. Grief is rough, because it just like the pain never really goes away. You just kind of get used to it, and so yeah, um, I'm sorry. Have you been able to spend time with family or anything, since learning this? And what are you up to? Um, I just need to find that. All right. I am, well, I'm just here hanging out. Just got back from my son's baseball game. And yeah, dadding it up. T, fight or flight since November 2022 and still can't figure out how to stop it. So annoying. Yeah, it is terrible. Fight or flight is the worst. It's like your own mind gets imprisoned, you know. Um, yeah, it's a challenge. So have you been in that state just constantly, like with the brain fog and everything? I may or may not be eating a food I'm allergic to. Well, if you can handle it, can you handle it without a big issue, or is it a big issue? Like, do I need to call someone? Are you being reckless? Because there's things I'm allergic to that I eat, but it's just because they're mild allergies, like avocado. That's not what I wanted to do. Well, then, eh, eh. You're just living life, then, Anne. Just living life. Yeah. Detoxing of gut, which helped, but it seems like vagus nerve or something causing it. Yeah, totally. I've so within the last year, I learned a lot about myself, right? Hey, honey bay, thank you for the heart me. And Teve through. I'll put the comment up so people know what we're talking about. You know, what I've learned, the last year. Um, I've done a lot of like soul searching when I discovered all these things and really paying attention to my body. Um, and you know, through that was like a lot of somatic exercises that really just like again connected me with various systems in my body and everything. And my nervous system was one of them. And that is for me where a lot of my CPTSD stuff really just lives. So for me, it's been trying to calm my nervous system, trying to make sure I don't get overwhelmed. One of the main things is that your amygdala will get triggered easily. And so it's trying to calm yourself, trying to make sure you're avoiding things that can, you know, cause scares, that kind of stuff. Because only like what your fear is, right? Um, and so yeah, it's a challenge, but one of the things that I learned, through a lot of the therapies is that, it's a disconnect between mind and body, and telling my body that it's safe, constantly saying that over and over has really, really helped me out. with just even you know, day-to-day stuff. And it's weird having to do that, but the reason why I do it is because I could think it all along, and I'm thinking it in my prefrontal cortex, you know. But until I say it out loud, the rest of my brain, the rest of my body isn't hearing it, you know. And thank you for the heart, me, and B, thank you for the rose. And so, you know, I definitely feel like there's a huge disconnect. Yeah, have you been doing therapy and all that stuff too? Lost 5 people and 2 animals in 4 years, including parents. Abandonment. Yeah, I mean, um, who knows? You know, who knows? Um, Hello, Honey Bay. Um, um, but yeah, it's, you know, I lost my dad a couple years ago. My trauma ended up being from childhood and things that I didn't know were as traumatic as, you know, were more traumatic than I remembered. And when I got those memories, it triggered me. Not only that, I was then a few months later had my trauma actually re-triggered in my home, like the actual events of my childhood trauma, and so that put me into like a severe state of fight or flight. Um, it's a huge challenge because you're just basically at the mercy of your body whenever your body's going to give up on this charade, you know, this fight or flight junk. Um, you know, so yeah, I mean, it's hard, but yeah, you know, hopefully therapy has been helping, you know, and diving into it and getting a better understanding. Um, you know, have you been prescribed anything? Let me see here. Somebody had said something earlier about um, also Van Morris. Welcome in with ADHD and OCD. Um, I lost my first grandfather April last year, then August last year. A couple months later, I lost my other one. You know, it definitely becomes like a rough part of a time of your life when you start to see certain people, certain generations of people just start to pass away. It gets really challenging, you know, to process a lot of it. Just make sure that you are processing it, that you are sitting with the feelings, and you are allowing yourself to grieve, because without the grieving, there can't really be any healing. Um, you know, keep thinking of you, about you mentioning lies told to you as a child. Yeah, Anne, have you been kind of thinking about that for yourself as well? Like, have you identified some things that may have been some core beliefs that, you know, you look back on and realize you shouldn't have believed? My mother lied to me, but I didn't mention it to her because mothers have so much power, one will doubt. Yeah, you know, my mom will just claim she doesn't remember. You know, she'll deny it, you know, all that kind of stuff. Um, you know, that's how it's been anytime, you know, things have been approached to her. So, you know, I'm not going to get anything special out of it. I could just have my understanding and move forward, you know, without her. Literal 4 months later, and first one due to cancer, second one that's out of nowhere in sleep. Yeah. Um, you know, it can happen really at any time. And as depressing as that sounds, you know, you know, it just means like you really do have to like cherish people, you know, and cherish the time that you have with them. Um, you know, take lots of videos, take lots of pictures, you know, save voicemails, all that stuff. Um, because those are things that you'll, you know, want to have. Um, I always remembered the first time I knew she lied and was totally shocked. I was 4. Yeah, it's really hard to, you know, to trust caregivers when they've already kind of given you reasons to not believe them, you know? Um, yeah, it's, you know, quite the challenge for reals. But yeah. Um, so how is everyone doing tonight? What's going on? Uh, Ice bath. I've overcome a lifetime of trauma, abuse, and a few ice baths without any pharma medicine. That's great. That's awesome. Yeah, cold, cold temperatures are definitely a good way to shock your body, back into a certain state. Um, with CPTSD, it's more of a conditioning that is done to your nervous system. So for me, um, I've been conditioned to anticipate fear at any moment because of the type of trauma that I experienced. So I can get myself out of a trauma state, with things like a cold shower, and that kind of stuff. But my nervous system is still like on high alert, saying, all right, we're fine this time, but you know, we're keeping an eye on things, and my amygdala is just very easily triggered. So it's pretty rough, but I mean, I'm really happy for you as well, especially being, 6 years sober. That's great, um, and, you know, yeah, and finally being able to live life. That's great. I'm happy for you, truly. And I hope to be there someday too. It really helps is hugs too. It calms the nerves. Weird, but calming. Hugs do help. Just real, genuine, like hugs where you can feel the empathy and you can feel the love, where you can feel the safety, um, to introduce the body to safety, you know, very, very powerful. Walked into the living room Christmas morning. We got bikes. I was shocked Santa brought bikes down the chimney. She said he made an exception and brought them in the front door. I cared more about her lying than that Santa wasn't real. Yeah. And I think that's one of the things too, when it comes to like, Santa and all that is, you do kind of have to like do these lies and these charades with your kids, and a lot of people will say, oh, like tradition, they got to believe in it and stuff. But actively lying to your kids is kind of weird. Now, I didn't really have full say in any of that kind of stuff. So, it's just kind of weird. But yeah, it is definitely something that, um, I don't know, it's building distrust, um, or it could, you know. We got to take a look at those kinds of things, as a parent, you need to be aware that like kids learn things, kids remember things, kids get conditioned by things. Um, I'll only hug my mother and grandparents. Yeah, well, whoever's comfortable and safe, and you can overcome, brother. Thank you. Yeah, I'm really hoping so. A lot of therapy, a lot of somatic work. I've had to use prescriptions and stuff because I need to calm my nervous system, because I also hit burnout. You know, and so there's a lot of stress. And so since I hit burnout, my stress levels just constantly at like 100, which means any kind of trigger, even like a trauma trigger, just like sends me over the edge, quite literally. Too much nervous response, you know. So it's new from 4 when she lied. Well, did it become like a problem, growing up, or was it just kind of like affecting your trust? You hate physical touch? Yeah, and I mean, a lot of people are like that, you know. My trauma makes me weary of certain types of touch. For instance, like if somebody comes up to me and just like pats me on the back, like says, "Oh, hey," like a friend or something like that, it it is so unnerving. It physically hurts my body, because it's an unexpected touch from behind, you know. Um, so it trauma's trigger because that's my childhood trauma was from behind. Um, basically unable to see when pain's gonna happen. And so, I definitely, have sort of my comfort zones when it comes to touch and everything. And, a lot of people, they don't realize that. So a lot of people do come up, pat me on the back, that kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, I have to allow them. I'm not going to go and tell everybody, hey, don't do that because of my childhood trauma, or, you know, um, so yeah, I mean, it's rough, but I definitely understand it. I get it, you know. Um, but yeah. I found my dad's hugs were uncomfortable. As much as I loved him, his temper and anger traumatized me. I remember, so like part of my autism is sensory sensitivity. And I've always been kind of like in tune with my body. But during my repressed memories, it unlocked a lot of things that I just remembered, you know what I mean? So I'd have flashbacks of certain types of situations and all that kind of stuff, but it also took me back basically into being that age, and I would remember the state of things, like how things were within my body. And whenever my dad would yell, I would get physical pains like in the back of my neck, and like it would shoot throughout my body from there, and it would be like this warming sensation, so like, when kids go like this, it was kind of like coping with sort of that sensation that would show up. um and yeah, I had that sensory sensitivity there, but a lot of it was probably also trauma, because of my parents being the ones that provided the abuse. Yes, my brother remembered, but I buried it subconsciously and forgot. Yeah. um, it's rough. It's rough, but healing is the path that we're on, right? To take these things and to heal and grow, and not let them take over. um, so that's really where we have to look. um, I love how my father lies to me. When I was a kid, I knew he was lying but denying it, but now my stepmother has told the truth without knowing he lied to me about that specific thing. Hey, um, liars deserve to be caught in their lies. So no empathy on my end, you know what I mean? Teve, appreciate you. Thank you. Um, sorry, gotta do something real fast. Um, I definitely understand and feel for you, Teve, when it comes to those things. Um, you know, um, and I think one of the things that's really difficult about the childhood stuff is that if you do a lot of work, you can kind of come to the realization of how those things impacted you as an adult, right? How growing up in certain environments, being responsive to certain things in certain ways, how it shaped you, and then a lot of things that you learned on top of that. It's like the very foundation of your upbringing gets challenged when you come to realize a lot of this stuff, because you see how deeply it still continues to impact you solely because of how it impacted you growing up. Um, so I finally told people I have PTSD since being in Vietnam. They remember that, and they have stopped. Uh, they have stopped what? Stopped having trauma, or but yeah. Um, but yeah, I mean, the thing about trauma though is that, like, you know it's difficult to handle, but being able to identify it and press forward is such a powerful thing, to be able to like take control and to just like deal with it, you know and that's really what we need to do, is to move forward, to continue to deal with it, to continue to seek therapy, seek guidance, so that we can heal. Because trauma sucks. Trauma, how it exists in the body, just sucks. You know, people think that trauma is like, I can't stop thinking of the sad thing. It's not that. It's your nervous system reacts to things involuntarily, and that can cause panic, because if your mind is not in tune with your body, all of a sudden you're just feeling the body sensations of what it was like to be traumatized. um, and that's usually what happens with PTSD, is that your body's the first one to respond, not your mind. Your mind isn't processing any new trauma, but your body reacts as if there's trauma, and then your mind goes, oh, wait, hold on, did I miss something? Oh, okay, yeah, let's crash out, um and so it's a complete nervous dysregulation, you know um so yeah, I mean, give yourself some grace. um Stuff's really hard. Coming up to me and suddenly coming up to me suddenly and terrifying me. I was never in Vietnam, but people uh, uh, will respect that. Yeah. um there's this rule in grace. What's that? um it's the thing that you give yourself and others when life is hard, and people deserve to know and be acknowledged for the hard work that they're doing just existing in this hard life. um that's what that is. um yeah, there's this rule, Anne, in my house, where you can't have any jump scares or hiding behind the corners, all that kind of stuff. You can't do that stuff, because like I will get easily triggered. I can't watch horror movies because my amygdala is so easily triggered. Fear is not fun for me. Fear is not ever fun for me. And so how people can watch horror films, I'll never understand, but I know why I'll never understand, because I learned fear when I was 3 years old. I learned real, genuine fear, for not only from my parents, but from the world, because my parents were the ones who cared about me the most and gave me reason to fear. So if my parents do that, why wouldn't anyone else? You know? So that's why I hate horror movies. Now, interesting. Well, yeah, I mean, if you think about it, the PTSD, it's your body, your stress, the stress response that you have, which is through the vagus nerve, will exist in your body. So your nervous system will react to certain signals, and then your body will, through the vagus nerve, travel to the amygdala and trigger it. Your amygdala is what triggers your fear response, and it's just so easily triggered. And a lot of times we don't have associations that will trigger the amygdala, right? As people, we don't learn to just fear. We have to find a reason to fear. Fear is taught. And so there's a lot of people who didn't experience that fear at such a young age, to have it built into the foundation of who they are, to not like horror films, to be scared of like intense things. you know um yeah. Fear is my second middle name. What's your first? Danger. But yeah, my parents went for the jugglers at each other, screaming. Yeah. Whatever you had to deal with and all that kind of stuff, I know, I know. It sucks that you have to take that into consideration. Um, it sucks that you had to deal with it. You know, um, Kids are not supposed to be exposed to that kind of stuff. I was not supposed to be exposed to fear at 3 years old. It was especially not supposed to come from the people who were supposed to take care of me and love me, and love me the most of the whole world, right? Um, and so that's just a bad start, but there's no do-overs. Do you know what makes sunshine? What makes sunshine, Anne? You'll win. Well, there you go. I would believe that because you are sunshine. You're a bright light in a very dark world. But yeah, so. But I mean, the thing with identifying trauma and all that stuff is just the understanding. And I was even talking about this earlier that me just having the understand of what trauma does to my brain, to my body, helps me understand so much more. Nah, sorry, Tony, ain't pronounced like that. Lose though. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. That's how it will be pronounced in my head. Next time we're on voice chat, you can tell me. Told by ENT I become frightened with cocktail chatter. He said it's just your vagus nerve. Well, I mean, it could be your vagus nerve. Because, you know, in polyvagal theory, the vagus nerve is responsible for the fear response, right? It's also responsible for certain levels of stress and burnout. You know, and so yeah. Are you guys hearing me? I'm hearing that there's no audio. No, I hear it on my phone. So yeah. You went close though. Okay. Well, but yeah. So you know, it can be your vagus nerve, but see, that's just it. Is they're just telling you the method of delivery of what is happening. You know. Yeah, it's the vagus nerve, but what's triggering it? You know, is the vagus nerve just doing it on its own? Probably not. You know, that's why a lot of people try to hijack the vagus nerve, because then they can try and instruct it on what to do to correct it. But you know, times that it's you know, not within your control. Hey Casey, how's it going? Did I freeze? Oh man,